There have been several versions of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, both on the small screen and the big screen. Every couple of years a new take pops up, and in this case we have a new animated feature titled Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. This was directed by Jeff Rowe, who was previously a writer on Gravity Falls, Disenchantment, and The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and among the writers and producers are Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. This is fairly new territory for Rogen and Goldberg, as their previous writing credits have been primarily on movies one would not exactly call family-friendly. So how do they fare with Mutant Mayhem? The movie presents a typical Ninja Turtles adventure, but there's a decent amount of enjoyment to be had. While the Turtles themselves remain largely interchangeable, an element I appreciated was the emphasis on them being teenagers. Previous movies and shows have not portrayed them as too teenage-like, right down to them being traditionally voiced by adult actors. Mutant Mayhem casts actual young people in the roles, and the script shows they are very much immature teenagers who don't always make the correct decision a lot of the time. They're energetic and often making fun of each other, and that bond is well portrayed between them. One of the most successful elements of this version is April O'Neil. Depicted as an aspiring reporter, she has a funny dynamic with the Turtles, but I also like seeing how their friendship grew from that first meeting to eventually working as a team. As we often see in Ninja Turtles media, there's a theme of them having to stay hidden in the shadows and that people would likely not be accepting of giant mutant animals. Even though April is their first human friend, she never sugarcoats the prejudiced side of human beings and their fear of anything new to them. Some of the best and funniest lines do belong to April. There are plenty of other funny moments throughout the film, particularly the ones that play up that these are talking animals. However, the film does become overly reliant on making pop culture references. Sometimes the entire joke is just making a reference, whether it's an enemy saying the Turtles look like Shrek, or April mentioning Megamind and Despicable Me. The script is littered with these, right now to even including clips from a Paramount Pictures movie and cardboard standees of real celebrities, which raises so many questions. The filmmakers do have fun with the other mutants the Turtles encounter. Whether one is familiar with these characters or not, they provide an enjoyable bunch, especially the chill Mondo Gecko. The main villain of the movie is Superfly, who becomes a worthy antagonist for the Turtles. He's definitely someone you grow to dislike and hope the Turtles wind up defeating, and where they take him shows an enormous amount of creativity. The stakes are there in the story, and that's largely thanks to Superfly. The animation in Mutant Mayhem is eye-catching and gives the film its unique flavor. As I mentioned in my review of Nimona, there has been this trend lately of giving computer-animated films a look heavily inspired by hand-drawn animation and comic books. However, each of the movies we've seen do this over the past decade and a bit bring their own influences to the table rather than merely copying the other. Jeff Rowe has said he wanted to emulate the sort of art you might see in an aspiring teenage artist's sketchbook, and the production team succeeded in accomplishing that. It adds a uniqueness to the film's look, and the only other comparison I found myself making was to the work of Klasky Csupo, the studio behind Rugrats and Duckman. The shows had this almost unkempt look, and were not afraid of giving the characters somewhat distorted faces and head shapes. Mutant Mayhem has a similar vibe, and I liked how they kept the pencil sketches in there. Kudos to the animation teams at Micros and Cinesite for their work on the film too. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem has a lot of the ingredients we expect from these characters at this point. The main thing it does differently from previous incarnations is focusing on the teenage part of the title and the animation style. However, those do become the highlights of the film, and Jeff Rowe makes an entertaining enough hour and 40 minutes. The fight scenes are directed with the right level of energy, and you do grow invested in the Turtles and them trying to figure out their place in the world, as well as the entrance into being superheroes. It's honestly quite remarkable to see how Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman's characters have evolved since their original comic book was published in 1984. Going from being a commentary on the edgier comics of the 80s and superheroes like Daredevil, to becoming a silly cartoon show for children, to blockbuster movies, to eventually becoming a part of Nickelodeon, it's certainly been fascinating to see how different filmmakers and writers have tackled the Ninja Turtles. Unsurprisingly, Mutant Mayhem leaves the door open for a sequel, and I'm certainly now curious to see what stories will be told with these versions of the characters.